Have you ever wondered why some people seem to move through life with unbelievable clarity, focus, and calm, as if they're operating on a completely different frequency? It's not luck, it's not some hidden talent, and it's definitely not because they work harder than everyone else. The truth is far simpler. They start their day before the world wakes up. And that one shift, that single decision to rise at 5 a.m., becomes the foundation for an extraordinary life. This is the heart of the 5 a.m. philosophy, the idea that owning your morning is the most powerful way to reclaim control over your mind, your time, and your destiny. Most of us begin our day reacting. The alarm rings, we hit snooze, scroll our phones, rush to get ready, and then stumble into a day that already feels like it's slipping away. But what if the day didn't control you? What if you walked into every morning calm, prepared, and already ahead? The core philosophy of the 5 a.m. Club is built on this transformative shift: move from reacting to creating. When you wake up before the sun, you reclaim stolen hours, hours that are usually consumed by noise, notifications, and distractions. At 5 a.m. the world is silent, your mind is clear, and your energy is untouched. It's a sacred window where you can focus entirely on yourself before the demands of the world creep in. This philosophy isn't about waking up early just for the sake of it. It's about protecting the most valuable part of the day. The early morning hours hold a mental purity you cannot find later. No messages, no responsibilities, no noise, just you and your thoughts. And it is during this silence that your best ideas surface, your deepest clarity emerges, and your strongest discipline is built. Imagine starting every day with a calm mind instead of a chaotic rush. Imagine feeling like you've already won before most people have even opened their eyes. Another powerful element of this philosophy is identity. When you consistently wake up at 5 a.m., you begin to see yourself differently. You start believing that you're someone who takes ownership of life, someone who values growth over comfort, someone who chooses purpose over laziness. And that identity shift is far more powerful than motivation. Motivation fades. Identity stays. Waking up early becomes a declaration. I choose to lead my life, not follow it. The 5 a.m. philosophy also highlights a simple truth. When you win your morning, you win your day. If your first hour is powerful, intentional, and aligned with your goals, the remaining hours naturally follow with greater discipline and clarity. It's like setting the tone for a symphony. That first note matters. If it's sharp, focused, and steady, everything that follows aligns with it. Most people underestimate the ripple effect of small morning victories. A peaceful sunrise, a powerful workout, a moment of reflection, learning something new. These small wins compound. Over weeks and months, they create a mental resilience that most people never experience. Instead of being overwhelmed by the day, you move through it with purpose. This is the core philosophy of the 5 a.m. Club. Protect the quiet hours, strengthen your mind before the world wakes up, and build a life guided by intention rather than chaos. It's not just about an early morning. It's about an elevated life. Have you ever noticed how different your mind feels early in the morning? There's a stillness that you can't find at any other time of the day, a kind of calm clarity that makes everything seem more possible. This isn't just poetic language. It's backed by real science. The 5 a.m. Club isn't built on motivation alone, it's built on neurological, psychological, and biological evidence that shows why waking up early gives you an edge that most people never tap into. When you rise at 5 a.m., you're not just waking up early. You're aligning yourself with the natural rhythms of your brain and body in a way that fuels productivity, creativity, and emotional stability. Let's start with the brain. At around 5 a.m., your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making, planning, and self-control, is at its quietest. That's important because this region is the one that gets overloaded during stressful, busy days. Early in the morning, it's rested, open, and able to think without interruption. The silence of dawn makes it easier for your brain to focus deeply, think strategically, and process ideas that feel impossible when distractions start flooding in later. This is why the world's best thinkers, writers, and creators often swear by early mornings. The brain simply performs better. Now look at your neurochemistry. Early waking gives you access to a powerful cocktail of chemicals. Dopamine levels rise, making you feel motivated and positive. Serotonin, the calm and happiness chemical, also increases, boosting your emotional balance. And because the morning world is quieter, your brain naturally gravitates toward deeper thought. It's a mental environment that supports clarity instead of chaos. When you wake up later, after noise, stress, and demands have already taken over, you start the day at a mental disadvantage. Then comes the role of cortisol, the stress hormone. Most people misunderstand cortisol, but early in the morning, a healthy spike is actually beneficial. It wakes the brain, increases alertness, and helps regulate energy. Around 5 a.m., your cortisol rhythm is naturally rising. If you wake up during this peak, your body aligns with its biological clock. But if you sleep through it and wake up late, you disrupt the cycle, leaving yourself groggy, unfocused, and slow. This is why many people feel tired even after 8 hours of sleep. They're waking up out of sync with their biology. The early morning hours are also a gateway to creativity. Part of this comes from brain waves. When you first wake up, your mind is in a light alpha state, the ideal state for imaginative thinking, fresh ideas, and problem solving. Artists, entrepreneurs, and innovators often talk about morning insights or shower thoughts. That's the alpha state at work. Waking up early gives you more time inside this creative zone before your brain fully shifts into a more logical, structured mode. And then there's emotional health. Waking up early reduces anxiety because you start your day ahead instead of behind. Instead of rushing, you move slowly, intentionally, giving your nervous system a calm foundation. When you own your morning, you lower the chances of being overwhelmed later. The mind feels spacious, grounded, and more resilient to stress. All of this points to one truth. The science behind early rising is undeniable. At 5 a.m., the body is aligned, the brain is optimized, and the emotional system is balanced. You're not just waking up early, you're tapping into a biological advantage that most people sleep through. That advantage becomes a superpower, one that can transform the way you think, feel, and live every single day. If there is one idea in the entire 5 a.m. Club philosophy that truly transforms lives, it is the 20-20-20 formula. This simple, structured 1-hour routine is the beating heart of the book, the blueprint that takes the power of waking early and turns it into real, measurable growth. Because waking up at 5 a.m. means nothing if you don't use that time wisely. The 20-20-20 formula gives you a clear, powerful roadmap. Move, reflect, grow. And these 3 pillars, done with consistency, can reshape your mindset, your emotions, your productivity, and your overall life trajectory. The first 20 minutes, move, is all about activating your body. Most people underestimate the power of early movement. When you wake up and immediately engage in physical activity, something incredible happens inside you. Your heart rate rises, your blood flow increases, and your brain gets flooded with oxygen. But the real magic is the release of neurochemicals. You get a hit of dopamine, which boosts motivation. You get serotonin, which improves mood. You produce BDNF, which strengthens brain connections and protects your neurons. This means that just 20 minutes of exercise doesn't just wake you up physically. It upgrades your brain. You start your day feeling energized, optimistic, and mentally sharp. It's a natural antidepressant, a cognitive enhancer, and a confidence booster bundled into one simple habit. The next 20 minutes, reflect, may be the most overlooked part of the morning routine. In a world full of noise, silence becomes a superpower. Reflection is about pausing, breathing, and reconnecting with yourself before you get pulled into the demands of the day. This can mean journaling your thoughts, practicing gratitude, planning your day, meditating, or simply sitting with your emotions. The goal is clarity. Because when you begin your day with introspection, you build emotional intelligence. You become more aware of your priorities, your feelings, and your purpose. Instead of being reactive, you step into the day with intentionality. Reflection creates self-awareness, and self-awareness creates better decisions. This 20-minute window becomes your mental armor, protecting you from stress, confusion, and distraction. And then comes the final 20 minutes. Grow. This is where you invest in your mind. While the rest of the world is asleep, you're learning, reading, studying, and developing yourself. This growth window is crucial because most adults stop learning after school, but high performers never do. You might read a book, listen to a podcast, study a new concept, or work on a skill that elevates your career. When you dedicate 20 minutes each morning to growth, you slowly but steadily separate yourself from the average person. Your knowledge expands, your perspective widens. You become more capable, more confident, and more valuable in whatever you do. Growth is the fuel that keeps your ambition alive. What makes the 20-20-20 formula so extraordinary is not its simplicity, it's the balance. You move your body, you center your mind, and you upgrade your knowledge. This combination hits all three domains of human excellence: physical, emotional, and intellectual. It ensures that when you step into the world after your victory hour, you're not just awake, you're optimized. You've ignited your energy, stabilized your emotions, and sharpened your mind. The formula also eliminates morning confusion. You don't wake up wondering what to do. You have a structure, a ritual that signals your brain that you are in control. Over time, this structure becomes identity. You start seeing yourself as someone disciplined, intentional, and driven, and when your identity changes, your actions follow naturally. This is why the 20-20-20 formula is more than a routine. It's a transformation tool. It turns your first hour into a victory, your day into progress, and your life into something extraordinary. Most people wake up and step straight into chaos. Their minds are scattered, their energy is low, and their thoughts are tangled before the day has even begun. But the 5 a.m. Club introduces a completely different way of living through something called the Victory Hour. The first 60 minutes after you wake up. This hour isn't just a routine, it's a psychological reset button that shapes the next 23 hours of your day. When you master this 1 hour, everything else becomes easier, clearer, and more intentional. The Victory Hour is where your morning stops being mechanical and starts becoming magical. Think about the first moments of your day. They set the emotional tone. They influence your mindset. They decide whether you spend your day reacting or creating. The Victory Hour is designed to give you command over this crucial window. It ensures that before the world demands anything from you, you've already given something to yourself. No noise, no rush, no pressure. Just deliberate actions that strengthen your body, calm your mind, and expand your intellect. Instead of being dragged by life, you step into the day as the leader of your life. Inside the Victory Hour, the 20-20-20 formula creates a rhythm: move, reflect, grow, but the magic lies in how these elements interact with one another. When you begin with movement, you elevate your physical energy. Your body wakes up, your blood pumps, and your brain switches into high-performance mode. This physical activation prepares you for the emotional and mental work that follows. A tired, sluggish body can't think clearly, but an energized body becomes the foundation for an energized mind. The reflection segment is where many people's breakthroughs happen. In regular life, we rarely pause. We're always rushing from one thing to the next, drowning in distractions. But during this quiet window, reflection reconnects you to your inner world. You evaluate your intentions for the day. You reconnect with your purpose. You notice your emotions instead of ignoring them. You gain mental clarity that most people never give themselves the time to experience. Reflection turns your morning into a compass that guides your choices and keeps you grounded. Then comes the growth segment, which elevates the Victory Hour from a routine to a life design tool. These final 20 minutes are where you invest in your mind with learning, reading, or self-development. Growth in the early morning is more powerful than learning at any other time of day because your mind is quiet, open, and ready to absorb. You're not distracted, you're not stressed, you're not overloaded. You're in a state of peak readiness, making whatever you learn more impactful and long-lasting. This is where new skills are born, new ideas emerge, and new perspectives develop. The Victory Hour is not about perfection, it's about presence. You don't need fancy equipment, expensive courses, or complicated rituals. You just need one uninterrupted hour where your focus is on becoming better. Over time, this hour compounds. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and before you know it, your level of discipline, energy, and confidence transforms. You begin to trust yourself more. You begin to think bigger. You begin to live with intention rather than habit. But the most powerful part of the victory hour is what it protects you from: the chaos of the world. When you give yourself the first hour, you step into your day already calm, confident, and prepared. Stress hits differently. Problems feel lighter. Distractions lose their power. You walk into your day with momentum instead of scrambling to create it. The victory hour isn't just a morning routine. It's a daily declaration that your growth, your peace, and your dreams matter. And when you commit to it consistently, the way you experience life begins to shift. Quietly at first, then profoundly. There's a common belief that success is built only on mindset, that if you think positively and stay motivated, everything else will fall into place. But the 5 a.m. Club introduces a deeper and far more powerful idea: the 4 interior empires. These empires go beyond mindset and dive into the core of what makes a human truly strong, balanced, and capable. The 4 interior empires are mindset, heart set, health set, and soul set. Together, they shape your identity, your emotions, your habits, and ultimately the quality of your life. And when you wake up at 5 a.m. to work on these empires, you're not just improving your day, you're upgrading the entire architecture of who you are. Let's begin with mindset, the most recognized empire, but not the only one. Mindset is about how you think, what you believe about yourself, and how you interpret challenges. It's the empire that shapes your confidence and your decisions. But the 5 a.m. philosophy teaches that mindset alone is not enough, because you can think positively, but if your emotions are heavy or your energy is low, your mindset won't be able to carry you far. Still, working on your mindset in the early morning, when your brain is clear and receptive, helps you build resilience and sharpen your mental strength. Next comes heart set, the emotional empire. This is where most people struggle without realizing it. Heart set is about healing emotional wounds, nurturing compassion, and creating inner peace. You can have the best goals, the smartest plans, and the strongest mindset, but if your emotional world is cluttered with stress, insecurity, or unresolved pain, you will sabotage your own progress. During the quiet hours of the morning, when you pause to journal, reflect, or meditate, you allow your heart set to realign. You release mental pressure, calm emotional storms, and build a more stable inner life. This emotional clarity becomes your foundation for the rest of the day. The third empire is health set, the physical dimension of excellence. Without energy, nothing else works. Your body is your vehicle, and if it's tired, weak, or neglected, no amount of motivation can save you from burnout. The morning movement in the 20-20-20 formula strengthens your health set by boosting your metabolism, sharpening your brain, and giving you a surge of natural energy. This empire reminds you that health is not a luxury. It's the fuel for everything meaningful you want to do. When you take care of your body daily, you don't just live longer, you live better. And finally, the fourth empire, soul set, the spiritual and purpose-driven aspect of life. Soul set isn't about religion. It's about connection to yourself, to your values, to your mission. Most people wake up and immediately get lost in doing, but they forget about being. When you wake up early and sit in silence or reflect deeply, you tap into your soul set. You gain clarity on what truly matters, what you stand for, and what kind of life you want to build. This gives your actions meaning. You're not just working, you're working with purpose. The beauty of the 4 interior empires is how they support each other. Mindset without heart set becomes cold. Heart set without mindset becomes directionless. Health set without soul set becomes mechanical. Soul set without health set lacks energy. But when you strengthen all 4, you become grounded, focused, energized, and purpose-driven. This is why the 5 a.m. Club focuses so much on inner work, because real success is built from the inside out. When you dedicate early mornings to these empires, you develop a kind of balance that is rare in modern life. You think better, you feel deeper, you move stronger, and you live wiser. These empires don't just make you successful, they make you whole. We all love the idea of waking up early, being disciplined and improving our lives. But loving the idea and actually making it happen are two very different things. This is where most people fail, not because they're weak, but because they don't understand how habits are actually built. The 5 a.m. Club reveals one of the most practical and powerful concepts for real change, the 66-day habit formation model. This model explains that building a new habit isn't a straight line. It's a journey with 3 very real, very human stages: destruction, installation, and integration. When you understand these stages, the struggle makes sense, the process becomes predictable, and the habit becomes achievable. The first stage is destruction, and this is where almost everyone quits. In the beginning, waking up at 5 a.m. feels like a shock to your system. Your body resists, your mind complains, and your old routines fight back. It feels uncomfortable because you're tearing down deeply rooted patterns. You're dismantling years of conditioning where you allowed comfort, laziness, or distraction to control your mornings. This stage can last around 22 days, and it feels messy. But here's the truth. Discomfort isn't a sign of failure. It's a sign of progress. It means the old habit is cracking. Most people mistake this pain for a lack of willpower, but in reality, they're simply in the destruction phase. Pushing through this is what separates those who transform from those who stay stuck. Then you enter the second stage, installation. This is where things become challenging in a different way. The old habit has been disrupted, but the new habit isn't fully formed yet. You feel caught between two worlds. Some days feel easy, others feel impossible. You may question yourself, feel inconsistent, or even doubt the whole process. But this stage is essential. It's like learning a new language or skill, awkward at first, but slowly becoming understandable. The brain is literally rewiring during these weeks. New neural pathways are being created, and your identity is shifting from someone who wakes up late to someone who rises early with purpose. This installation phase is where resilience is built. You learn to show up even when you don't feel like it. And that muscle of consistency becomes one of the most valuable strengths in your life. Finally comes the third stage, integration. This is where the magic happens. What once felt impossible becomes natural. Waking up at 5 a.m. no longer feels like a battle. It feels like a part of who you are. The habit becomes automatic, almost effortless. You no longer rely on motivation because your identity has absorbed the behavior. You start experiencing the true benefits of your new routine: more energy, more clarity, more focus, and a deeper sense of control over your life. This stage proves that discipline is not a personality trait, it's a trained skill. And once a habit reaches this stage, it stays with you in a powerful, lasting way. The 66-day model teaches one profound lesson. Success doesn't come from intensity, it comes from consistency. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to show up, even on the messy days, even when you slip, even when your mind tries to pull you back into comfort. Each day you choose the new habit, your brain is rewiring itself. Each small effort compounds with time. When you understand these 3 stages, you stop expecting overnight results. You start respecting the process, and you develop a level of patience and discipline that can transform not just your mornings, but your entire life. We often hear people say that mornings decide your day, but most of us never pause to truly understand what that means. The truth is, winning your morning is not a motivational slogan. It's a psychological, emotional, and physical advantage that shapes everything you experience afterward. When you wake up at 5 a.m. and follow a powerful routine, you're not just starting early. You are giving yourself a head start that compounds through every hour that follows. And over time, those advantages create a life that feels calmer, more productive, more creative, and more in your control. The benefits are not random or vague. They are real, measurable, and transformational. One of the biggest benefits is an immediate boost in productivity. While most people wake up rushing, you wake up preparing. You begin your day with clarity instead of chaos. When your mind has already been exercised, calmed and nourished through movement, reflection and learning, everything you do afterward feels lighter. Tasks that once felt overwhelming become simple. You're focused, grounded and mentally sharp. And since you start your day with momentum, that energy follows you into work, into conversations, and into every decision you make. You're no longer playing catch-up, you're setting the pace. A second major benefit is emotional stability. Early mornings create a buffer between you and the noise of the world. Before social media, news, responsibilities and demands flood your mind, you give yourself time to breathe, to reflect, and to regulate your emotions. This emotional foundation makes you more patient, less reactive, and more resilient. Instead of letting stress hijack your day, you develop the ability to handle challenges calmly. Your mind becomes like still water, clear and steady. You're not easily overwhelmed because you've already taken time to center yourself. Creativity is another powerful benefit of winning your morning. The early hours tap into a unique mental state where your brain is rested and free from distractions. Your imagination becomes more active. Ideas flow more naturally. Problems that once seemed complex suddenly reveal simple solutions. Whether you're a student, a professional, or a creator, this creative advantage becomes one of your greatest assets. It allows you to think deeply, innovate boldly, and see opportunities that others miss. Waking up early also significantly improves decision-making. When your mind is calm and refreshed, your choices are more intentional and aligned with your goals. You're not making rushed decisions based on stress or impulse. You're making thoughtful decisions based on clarity. This alone can change the direction of your life, because life is nothing more than a series of choices. Better mornings lead to better decisions, and better decisions lead to better outcomes. Another benefit is discipline. Every time you wake up at 5 a.m., you strengthen your willpower. You prove to yourself that you can do difficult things. This discipline doesn't stay in the morning. It spreads into your entire life. You become more consistent with your goals. You stop procrastinating. You stop settling. You start doing what needs to be done instead of what is easy. This identity shift from someone who reacts to someone who leads becomes one of the greatest gifts of joining the 5 a.m. club. And then comes the long-term transformation. When you win your morning consistently, your life slowly starts to change. You notice that you're more positive, more confident, and more in control. You feel healthier. You feel more connected to your purpose. You feel proud of the person you're becoming. The benefits don't show up all at once. They compound over weeks, months, and years. But when they arrive, they reshape everything. Winning your morning means winning your mind, your emotions, your productivity, and ultimately your life. It's not just a habit. It's a foundation for becoming the best version of yourself. Let's be honest. Discipline sounds great, but in real life, distractions are winning. Most people today are overwhelmed not because they lack talent, but because they lack focus. The 5 a.m. Club solves this modern problem through one powerful idea: the tight bubble of total focus. It teaches you to protect your attention, energy, and mental bandwidth from the constant interruptions that quietly steal your potential. Extraordinary results don't come from doing more. They come from working with deep, distraction-free focus. The tight bubble of total focus is like a mental fortress created around your priorities. Inside this bubble, you're unreachable to noise, negativity, or unnecessary demands. Your creativity grows, productivity peaks, and your important goals move forward. Early mornings, especially after your victory hour, are ideal for entering this bubble because the world is silent and your mind and body are already in high-performance mode. One major reason people fail to achieve their dreams is fragmentation. They start something, get distracted, switch tasks, check their phone, react to notifications, and then wonder why they're exhausted. The brain isn't built for constant switching. Every shift drains clarity and momentum. The tight bubble of total focus ends this chaos by giving you uninterrupted time for deep work. Whether you're studying, writing, building a skill, or executing a project, Your bubble becomes a personal powerhouse, but creating this bubble requires boundaries. You must protect your mornings. That means turning off notifications, avoiding social media, limiting conversations, and guarding your energy from people who drain it. When you wake up early, you gain a natural advantage. The world is asleep. No calls, no messages, no demands. This quiet becomes your shield. Inside your bubble, everything you do has more power because your attention is sharp and undiluted. Environment design is another key part. Your surroundings influence your behavior more than motivation ever will. A cluttered space creates a cluttered mind. A distracting environment produces weak results. But a clean, calm, organized environment supports excellence. High performers carefully shape their morning spaces. Minimal noise, clean desks, inspiring books, tools that fuel growth. Your environment should remind you of the future you want to create, not the past you're escaping. Your bubble also protects your energy. Mental strength is limited each day. If you waste it on trivial tasks, you won't have enough left for what truly matters. Early morning focus taps into your peak energy window, when your mind is fresh and willpower is strongest. In this state, you don't just work more, you work better. Quality rises and progress accelerates. Most importantly, the tight bubble of total focus shapes your identity. When you consistently protect your mornings, you stop seeing yourself as someone easily distracted. You become someone who values depth, purpose, and mastery. That identity shift transforms your decisions, habits, and long-term results. This bubble is not about isolating yourself all day. It's about creating sacred pockets of time where your genius can grow. When you protect your attention, you protect your future. In a world full of noise, your ability to focus becomes your ultimate superpower. Have you ever noticed how the people who grow the fastest are not the ones who shout about their achievements, but the ones who humbly keep showing up day after day, doing what others avoid? That's the energy of Aspect 9. The inner transformation the 5 a.m. habit creates. Because beyond the routines, beyond the hacks, beyond the motivational quotes, the real shift happens in who you become. Waking up at 5 a.m. is not just about gaining extra hours. It's about shaping a mindset that refuses to settle for average. And the truth is, every time you choose to rise early, you're quietly telling yourself, I am capable of more than yesterday. That's where the deep evolution begins. In the silent decisions no one sees. When you repeatedly push through the initial resistance and rise before the world wakes, your identity starts to shift. You stop saying, I wish, and start saying, I will. You stop depending on motivation and instead build discipline like a muscle. A lot of people think discipline is about forcing yourself. But real discipline is built by creating a lifestyle that supports your future self. At 5 a.m., your mind is uncluttered, the world is quiet, and your inner voice is finally louder than the noise of expectations. This space allows you to reconnect with your values, your goals, and your deeper purpose. You start making decisions based on clarity, not pressure. And over time, you notice that distractions lose their power over you. One of the biggest changes early risers talk about is emotional resilience. When your day starts with calmness, intention, and control, stress stops dominating your life. You learn to respond instead of react. You center yourself before the world can pull you in different directions. This emotional mastery spills into relationships, work, and personal growth. You become more patient, more grounded, and surprisingly more confident. Because confidence is not built by achievement, it's built by keeping promises to yourself. And the 5 a.m. habit is one of the purest forms of self-promise. Another internal transformation is self-respect. Every morning you rise early, you prove to yourself that you are not controlled by comfort. You are driven by purpose. You earn your own respect by doing the work no one applauds, but everyone eventually notices. And soon you start holding yourself to higher standards, not because someone told you to, but because you genuinely believe you deserve better. This shift in self-belief becomes the foundation for bigger risks, bolder decisions, and more meaningful successes. Then comes the creative expansion. The early morning hours unlock ideas, insights, and inspiration that rarely surface in the chaos of the day. You start seeing possibilities where earlier you saw limits. You start solving problems that once felt impossible. Over time, your brain becomes more innovative, more focused, and more capable of deep thinking. This is why so many creators, leaders, thinkers, and entrepreneurs swear by early mornings. It is the zone where the mind becomes a playground for breakthrough ideas. But perhaps the most powerful internal change is the sense of ownership. When you reclaim your mornings, you reclaim your life. You're no longer drifting, you're directing. You're not waiting for the right moment, you're creating it. You begin to understand that success is not accidental, it's intentional. It's crafted in the quiet hours before the world wakes up. And this identity shift, this internal evolution, is what ultimately makes the 5 a.m. habit life-changing. Because when you become the kind of person who consistently chooses growth over comfort, you unlock a version of yourself you never thought possible. The real transformation is not in waking up early, it's in who you become because of it. Have you ever wondered what truly separates those who live an ordinary life from those who rise into extraordinary fulfillment? By the time you reach this final aspect of the 5 a.m. philosophy, something becomes crystal clear. The journey was never just about waking up early. It was about reclaiming your life, rewriting your identity, and realizing that you are capable of far more than you ever believed. In this closing reflection, let's bring everything together: the discipline, the clarity, the routines, the growth, and understand what it all really means when practiced consistently and sincerely. When you commit to rising at 5 a.m., you commit to intentional living. You stop sleepwalking through your days and start showing up with purpose. You begin to recognize that time is not something you spend, it's something you invest. Every morning becomes a fresh opportunity to shape your mind, strengthen your body, and elevate your spirit. And when these three evolve together, your entire life begins to shift toward balance and excellence. The greatest achievers aren't necessarily the ones with the most talent. They're the ones who master their mornings and protect their focus. One of the biggest realizations people have after following the 5 a.m. habit for a while is how much power they actually have over their lives. You understand that success isn't waiting for you somewhere in the future. It's built in the daily choices you make right now. You learn to trust your discipline, to listen to your inner voice, and to take action even when it's inconvenient. Instead of reacting to life, you begin designing it. Instead of living in chaos, you learn to move with clarity and intention. Another powerful outcome is the way your relationships, work, and personal well-being naturally improve. You show up more patient, more present, and more centered. People around you begin to notice the shift, the calmness in your decisions, the confidence in your actions, and the quiet determination that comes from mastering your mornings. Slowly, your life transforms not through force but through alignment. You become someone who is dependable, consistent, and deeply aware of their purpose. And then comes something even deeper: the realization that the real victory is internal. The 5 a.m. habit trains you to rise above excuses, to silence the voice of doubt, and to become your own source of strength. You stop waiting for permission or motivation, and you start moving because it's who you are now. Your identity evolves from someone who tries to someone who does. And that shift changes everything. You see challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities to grow stronger. You embrace discomfort because you understand it is the gateway to transformation. In the end, the 5 a.m. club is not just a routine, it's a declaration that your dreams matter, that your growth matters, that your life is worth waking up for. When you choose to rise early, you choose to rise in every area of your life. And as these habits compound, you start living with more peace, more achievement, and more fulfillment than you ever imagined. So as we close this journey, remember this: success is not built in one big moment. It is crafted quietly, patiently, and persistently, one early morning at a time. If you embrace this philosophy fully, your life will not just improve, it will transform. If you found this helpful and inspiring, make sure to like, share, and subscribe my channel, Audiobook Library, for more powerful insights and life-changing summaries.